मनोबुद्ध्यहंकार चित्तनिनहं न च श्रोत्रजिह्वे न च घ्राणनेत्रे न च व्योमभूमिर्न तेजो न वायुः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्.
Hello. Namaskar. Today we'll start with a story from Chandogya Upanishad. It's the famous story of Tat Tvam Asi. There was a sage named Uddalaka. He had a 12-year-old son, Shvetaketu. And per the tradition of those times, Uddalaka decided to send his son to a gurukul or ashram to learn scriptures, to learn shastras. And 12 years later, Shvetaketu, his son, returned back. And then Uddalaka could see a little arrogance in him, a little know-it-all kind of a syndrome in him, ego. So he decided, he thought of bringing him down to earth. So he sort of questioned his knowledge. And there's a dialogue between Uddalaka and Shvetaketu that's kind of interesting, and we'll go through. It's in the 6th chapter of Chandogya Upanishad. So the dialogue between Uddalaka and Shvetaketu goes as follows. Shvetaketu, have you heard of that teaching by which what's never heard becomes heard, what's never thought of becomes thought of, what's never known becomes known? Shvetaketu was startled. And he says, Sir, what's that teaching? Please teach me. Then Uddalaka says, Okay, I'll teach you. And then he goes, Oh, Saumya, it's like this. By knowing a single lump of gold, you know all objects made of gold. All changes are mere words in the name only. And this is the famous definition, Vacharambanam. All changes are mere words in name only, but the gold is the reality. The gold is the reality. Then he goes on to explain, to define the existence, what's permanent. And he says, Saumya, before this world was manifest, there was only existence, one without the second. Sadeva Saumya idamagra asit, ekameva dvitiyam. So the world was manifest, there was only existence, one without second. And now comes the famous Tat Tvam Asi verse. Saya eshoni mai tadatmamidam sarvam tat satyam sa atma tattvamasi shvetaketu. That which is the subtlest of all is the self of all this. It's the truth. It's the self. That thou art, O Shvetaketu. You are that. Tattvam Asi, Shvetaketu. So now let's explore Tattvam Asi with Ramesam. What's the meaning of who is Shvetaketu, in the sense, how do we apply this metaphor in our analysis, in our self-inquiry? Let's ask. Let's discuss this with Ramesham. So the question is, Tattvamasi. This Tattvamasi was repeated 9 times by Uddalaka in to explain the metaphor in 9 different ways. See, so Ramesham, what is the self they're talking about in this? You know, Saya Atma. What is the self?
See, as you know, the entire Prasthanatrayee is about what is this self. So, Shankara in his commentary too exhaustively gives several clues about what is self, because ultimately we have to identify ourselves with that self instead of our usual identification with the body and mind in our day-to-day life. The world we see, we perceive, we live in, interact with, is all seen by us as the five senses show to us through direct perception and as we infer from the mind the meaning of this world. Now, the self is not like any object that appears to us in the world. So we cannot directly say this is self or the self resembles this particular object or item that you perceive already in the world or you feel or experience through your mind like anger or love or some emotion. So how to describe this Brahman or the self is always done apophatically, that is via negative approach. Anything you think of or anything you experience or perceive is said to be not the self. So why is it not the self? Drushtatvat, because you already see it, experience it. So anything seen, experienced is not the self. Here, in the context of the Chandogya Upanishad, 6th chapter, Uddavakaruni tries to inform his son, Svetaketu, what is this self. He gives certain indicators, like it is rather, self is said to be the root of the universe. It is at the very beginning or the root cause of the universe. Again, self really does not generate or produce the world, but just for explaining, it is said as though it is at the very root of the world. Then it is also explained as the abode or the basis for all creatures that live in the world. All the animate or even inanimate objects that we come across in the world, they live by and within the self. In other words, self is the quintessential substance, the thing that is, and we mistakenly see it to be or understand it to be the creatures, the objects, the colors, the shapes that we come across in the world. Self by itself is birthless, unlike any of the objects in the world which have a birth, a growth, a development, a maturity, and then decay, and then they perish. Unlike any of these qualities that we observe in the world or in the objects of the world, self is birthless and is also deathless or immortal. Because it is alone, there is nothing else in conflict with or in competition with self. There is nothing for the self to be afraid of. It is not scared of anything, so it is fearless. And it finds everything always congenial to itself, very favorable. And it is non-dual. There is nothing else other than the self. So it is always is. So that beingness itself is self, and it is the truth, and it gets represented within each one of us as the Atma. Atma means the sense of meanness. So whenever I refer to myself, or you refer to yourself, or any creature refers to itself, it says me or I. That sense of me, that raw sense of me, without any descriptors, that is Atma. And this Atma is nothing but the self itself. So this, in very brief, a picture of the self that Uddalaka Aruni gives to his son Swetaketu.
Ah, yeah. My question is, how, who is Shwetaketu in this metaphor? How can we relate to Shwetaketu? And who is Uddalaka? How can we put that in perspective?
See, each one of us, within us, a sense of meanness. Nobody has to tell us who I am, or even the simple fact that I am. Nobody has to tell me. I know it by myself. And I don't look for any external evidence for my own beingness. Right?
Right,
So
right,
this beingness of myself, which I know that I am, that itself is this self. That means the sense I get from that innate feeling, that immediate, we don't require any medium for that. So that immediate feeling I get that I am, that amness is indicative of the self. So if I say I'm Mr. So-and-so, before I say I'm Mr. So-and-so, that amness comes.
right.
Or you say I'm an engineer,
Yeah,
I'm a doctor, I'm a carpenter, I'm a driver. Any expertise you may claim follows the beingness of yourself. So that beingness is the primary thing. Then the descriptor is your expertise
right,
or ownership. I am the owner of this property or relationship. I am the wife or husband or the son or the daughter of so and so. So this relationship also comes later on. First comes that beingness. So that first thing that comes, beingness, is the self.
okay,
So if whenever you refer to yourself by any name or some indication, you already know your own existence. That existence is the real pointer to the self.
right. So there is a pointer, and then what comes is really not you, what you are, but what is the pointer itself is you.
The pointer which is felt by our own self
Right,
without any external evidence.
right, correct, correct, correct. Yeah. Yeah. So the question is, what has been the result as regards to the self to this teaching of sage Uddalaka?
If we are talking with reference to any single individual me and the self, which is infinite, birthless, and so on, there is absolutely no relationship between that sense of separate me, Mr. So-and-so, whether it is Uddalaka or Vijay or anybody, Ramesam or whatever the name may be. There is no exact relationship between these two entities. Because for a relationship to exist, both should be present simultaneously in the same realm. But it doesn't happen. It's, to give you a little comparison, there is a me that is aware of the world in my wakeful state. There is a me that is aware of the dream world in the dream state. That is the dream me. What is the relationship between the awake me and the dream me? There's absolutely no relationship at all. But for an explanation, we conceive of some model. Now, who is this Uddalaka, the individual who is trying to know what is self, or to whom, as a teacher, his father is explaining what is self? So we can think of Uddalaka as the individual who questions this,
No,
who wants to know what is
Shwetaketu. The Shwetaketu is the one who's knowing, not Uddalaka. Yeah,
I'm
Uddalaka is the
sorry,
guy. Yeah.
you're
Right.
right.
Yeah.
So Shwetaketu, we can say, is the one who is interested to know what is self, and Uddalaka is teaching to him who wants to know.
Correct.
So Shwetaketu is the separate individual who is entitled to know what is self, and this ability to know also is not really speaking within Uddalaka, within Shwetaketu, sorry. That ability to know also is derived from the true self itself. The true infinite self only has that capacity of sentience to know, to understand, to grasp. So we can imagine it is something like a reflection of the sun in a pool of water.
Right.
The sun is actually up in the sky, but we see as if it is within the water in a water pool. So this sentience, which gets reflected within the individual's mind or intellect, is what we call as the separate self. It's not really separated as an individual entity, but we can conceive of it as a reflection of the true self. So this individual entity with a body mind, along with that reflection of the true self, can be called as the unit which gets the entitlement to know who is self.
Right.
So this entity of a combination of that physical form plus the reflection of the sentience together can be called as Swetaketu.
I think that makes sense.
So
So,
that is the reflected sentience gives its own contribution to the entity in the form of giving that entity a capacity to know things, to ask questions, to understand, to grasp.
right.
And
So,
the form of the body mind gives a shape, an entityhood, you can say,
Correct.
a finite contour separating that entity from another entity.
Right.
So this together, the reflection of this main sentience plus this body, mind, intellect
Combination.
as the limiting contours, or as it is called, upadhi, that means limitation, a sort of a cover, is the individual person we call by name Satvaketa.
So the thing is, one is the self, that's existence, then why should one not be aware of it? Why shouldn't be one aware of it? If that's the case, it should be aware all the time.
Yeah, we should be aware, but that awareness is coming all the time to us because of that infinite sentience only.
Right.
But our inability to understand that it is the infinite entity that is giving us the sentience is because, as a separate individual, we are focused on the limited upadhi,
Right.
the limiting shape that gives to us. So our attention is all gone towards the limiting factor rather than the awareness that is really giving us that ability to know. So we misdirect our attention towards the wrong entity. The entire effort of the scripture is to divert our attention back to that sentience rather than be focused on the limiting objects.
Right. That's very interesting. So what happens by the ascertainment of implied meaning of the words in the sentence, "You are that"? So what happens by the ascertainment of those words, "You are that"?
As I already said, our attention gets redirected towards the real sentience, which gives us the ability to know by this teaching.
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. So it basically, yeah, you answered that question. My next question, Ramesham, is what action should I take to augment my understanding and attainment, to attain a Brahman? So let me rephrase the question again. What action should I take to augment my understanding and attain Brahman?
Actually, as Shankara says several times, both in Brihadaranyaka as well as Mundaka Upanishad, and at many places, even his commentary on the Vedanta Sutras, no action taken by us can result in giving us that ability to know the self. That means the ability to know the self and be identified with that self is not a result of an action.
Ah,
So no action can really be done to arrive at or to grasp that understanding. It has to happen through immediate knowledge of it, like the famous story of the 10th man.
Right.
You see, out of the 10 people who crossed the river and reached the other bank, each person counts all the others and forgets himself for counting. So each person counts only 9 and thinks one is lost or dead or somehow drifted away in the flood. It is an external passerby who sees all the 10 and tells him, you are forgetting to count yourself. You are the 10th. You are the 10th. When that passerby instructs it, like a teacher telling a student in Vedanta, when that passerby tells him, you are the 10th, there is no further action taken by that individual. He understands automatically.
Right.
So that grasping, I am the 10th, is not a result of an action done.
Correct.
It is just that ability to know. So you cannot, really speaking, take an action like repetitive reading or worshipping or carrying on with any rituals or sacrificial rites. Nothing can really help this understanding. What all, if we can say so, helps the understanding is to have a clear, unperturbed, and cleaned mind, free from any egoistic sense. So an absolutely clear, focused mind, which can be steady, not jittery or mercurial, and which can stay on course in its attention without diversifying its own attention. So that sort of a mind, like a clear windshield glass in a car,
Right.
it should be free from all muck, free from me-centeredness, free from all prayers like myself, my property, or my knowledge, my expertise, or my image, my pride, my, all that sort of my and me, that should be totally neutralized. Such a clean mind without any prayers, understandings, will be able to grasp the sense of this message. So that's all what one can do, but for the understanding itself, there is no action to be done to help the understanding. It has to happen by itself.
Yeah.
In a clean, steady, focused mind.
Yeah.
Essentially,
Yeah.
as I said,
Yeah. Yeah.
Shankara clarifies at several places like Rudaranyaka, Mundaka, and all those Upanishad commentaries that this ability to identify oneself as Brahman
Yeah.
is not the result of any action, because action can result essentially in 4 things. To manufacture something that doesn't already exist. That means you are giving birth to it.
Correct.
But this infinite self, as we already said, is birthless. It's not born. Because anything born, as Gita also says, is liable to be dead.
All right.
So it is unborn. Naturally, then it will be immortal also. But something you produce through a manufacturing process will have a limited life.
Right.
But we are not seeking anything that has an upper and a lower limit. Therefore, action like manufacturing cannot produce it. Then action can be useful to procure something if it is available elsewhere and you don't have it. So you either beg, borrow, or steal, as they say, if you don't have it. But in the case of self, there is no question that you don't have it or there is any place that doesn't have this self. Because self, as we said, is that basic raw beingness.
Right.
And beingness is everywhere. You cannot say, here is beingness which doesn't exist.
Right.
So if the very moment you say it is, beingness is already there.
Yeah.
So no action can produce beingness. Nor do you have to bring it by taking an action from elsewhere to where you are.
Correct.
Beingness is present everywhere. So action is again not required. Then if it is available, it may be in an impure form or in a way that is not directly accessible. In which case you can take action for the purification, distilling, and so on. But self is such that nothing contaminates it. It never gets attached to anything nor polluted by anything. It always remains crystal clear
Yeah.
and absolutely pure.
Right.
So you cannot take again any action in the form of purification.
Purification. Right.
Nor can you assemble it from different parts because the ingredients or components are available, but the form of self itself is not available. In which case, you assemble, like you assemble a motorcycle or a car by putting together several of the individual entities, like in a computer. These are actions that can be taken to put together, bringing several components. But Brahman or the self or pure beingness doesn't have any parts in it. It is one single homogeneous entity.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be assembled at all.
Yeah.
So essentially speaking, then, action can manufacture something or bring it from elsewhere or purify which is polluted, or you can put together by a process of cooking, following a recipe, putting together various components. But self cannot be produced by any of these four means. So action becomes totally something which is useless as far as our identification or being ourselves as the self.
Right.
So this is explained by Shankara, and action cannot be taken at all for our own identification with the self.
Right. Correct. Correct. Yeah. I think that answers that question as to what action needs to be taken. It's very, very clear. So at this stage, Ramesham, why not we just wrap it up
Okay.
with the two things essentially, which we already talked about, but we'd like to wrap it up with how do we bring it into the practice? Number one, this analysis of Tat Tvam Asi. Number two, after all this reading and listening, uh, I still, why is it that I don't get it? What is there
Yeah.
obstruction, or yeah, that's, well, let's wrap this up
Right.
with these two.
To sum up,
Yeah.
why we don't get it in spite of these repeated lectures to us is because of our inability to get rid of what we have been believing in. We have been believing and acting for perhaps several millennia of years, through several lifetimes, that we are the limited body and the mind. So we are still unable to get rid of this idea. In other words, we are still focused on to what our five senses show us and what the mind interprets to be what is seen by us. So we have to first learn not to believe in what the senses show us and what the mind tells us to be the meaning of what is perceived. So if we stop our attention going towards the objective world and just stay there.
Right.
So by diverting our attention from outward object-oriented approach, we will then not see the world we are seeing. Then what is shown at that moment is something which is not accessible to the five senses or even to the mind. You will be able to just grasp it, like the message given by a passerby to the 10th man. He
Right.
just grasps it. I am the 10th. So that understanding comes, you see, when in the story of the 10 people also, what that gentleman is trying to do is count the people who are visible to his eye, external to him. So
Right.
instead of being externally oriented vision, the vision has to change 180 degrees, figuratively speaking, and understand I am the 10th.
Right.
So
Right.
this figurative uh, redirection of our attention towards one's own self, that is what is required.
That is
But
right.
if we keep our focus on the 9 people that are external to us, like the external world appearance, we will never be able to find that 10th man.
Right.
So this is the real essential message that we derive. Don't be focused on the world and the worldly mundane interactions, adjustments, relationships.
Yeah.
You turn virtually 180 degrees. And that's all what you have to do.
Yeah.
You don't have to traverse or move or anything. In that turning around itself, the understanding that I am the 10th comes. In a similar way, the moment we stop our focus onto the external things, automatically, without doing any further action, the understanding also comes in.
Right.
So why we are not able to understand? Because in some minuscule amount, we are still focused on external things.
Right.
We are busy with our senses and thinking.
Right.
So
And when you
that has to stop, and the cessation of that activity itself then takes over to show whatever it is there.
so when you say externally, even the body, mind, BMI, intellect is also external in this context, isn't it?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Sure.
Absolutely, you are right.
Right. Right. I think that wraps up a pretty good. We answered really the obstacles we went through the Tattvam Asi itself. We had initial story, and then we gotten inquired further down what exactly who's Shvetiketu, who is Uddalaka, and then how it relates to me, and what the obstacles are. I think that should cover it up. Thanks a lot, Ramesham. Thanks a lot.
Good. Thank you.
मनोबुद्ध्यहङ्कारचित्तनिनहं न च श्रोत्रजिह्वे न च घ्राणनेत्रे न च व्योमभूमिर्न तेजो न वायुः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहम्